What's up, friends, and welcome to another 6-1 Indie Showcase developer interview. My name is Kyle Stevenson. Alongside me on the 6-1 side is Harry Loazides. How you doing, Harry?
I'm good, ready to talk about a cool game.
Yeah, and that cool game in question for this developer interview is Cabernet from Party for Introverts. And from the studio, we have Laura and Arseni. How are you both doing?
Hello, we're
Pretty
doing
good.
very well. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Thanks for letting us show off your game. We're super excited to learn more about it. But before we do, we like to start these interviews off with getting to know you guys as developers and as gamers. So, what's your history on joining game dev and like what kind of games you typically like to play?
Yeah, so we kind of started a little bit from different backgrounds. Way back, gosh, over a decade ago in Pittsburgh is where we met. And I actually come from a theater background. So I do acting, voice acting for this game also, but was always from the theater world. And this one was from the video game world.
Yeah, I have a pretty much strictly game development background. So I used to be a producer. Last 5 years before we started doing this full time, I worked at PlayStation on some big titles, Returnal, Sackboy, God of War even, and a bunch of other things. But basically, at a certain point, we decided it's time to actually make stuff that we really want to make on our own. And if not now, then when? So then we actually did it, it seems.
So we moved to London, and we're actually London based. Surprisingly, still very American accent from my end, but yeah, we're technically
we're both
British. We're British citizens, and we work from over here now, and we're part of the kind of the game community in London.
That's awesome. Yeah. Nice. We looking up your studio to come up with some questions. I noticed that you have a lot of your other games are like short interactive stories. With Cabernet, which we'll get to in a second, seemingly a longer game than what those games are. What were the challenges in scaling up to make Cabernet what it is?
Yeah, much longer from our end. So yeah, our we call short interactive stories about 10-15 minutes maybe before, and kind of transitioning into multi-hour long game, between 5 and 10 hours is kind of depending on how you play it, was something that was a challenge to us. But the reason we also did smaller games was because it was going to hopefully allow us to scale. So they were kind of like testing grounds for kind of just our own little ideas, our own little kind of quirky games, and to figure out what worked, what didn't work, and gain a lot of skills along the way as well. We're both producers. So I was a theater producer, and he mentioned he was a video game producer. So kind of also like acquiring all these other kind of artistic skills. He's been a programmer for most of his life.
Well, yeah, I have an education in this.
Yeah,
I thought I'm not gonna be, but look how the tables turned.
Coming back around, but learning how to like animate and all the art and stuff. Obviously, we have talented freelancers who help us, but just even understanding everything, those kind of short interactive stories really led us to this point, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. The short stories were important. We actually do like the short story genre a lot. We would have wanted to do that even if we didn't have the restrictions that we did. But also, yes, it is much easier to make a 15-minute game while you work full-time somewhere else than to make an actual full-scale project, which we're working on now. It was very important. We are proud of those games, but this is quite different.
They're nice stepping stones.
Yeah, awesome.
Nice.
In terms of the game itself, where you're doing a vampire game, was there any mythical creatures before that you were kind of toying with, or were you guys dead set with vampires since day one?
I mean, we love our mythical creatures, we love our folklore, we love our kind of mythology, but vampires was always it from day one. Actually, many years ago, we had always wanted to make a vampire game, but we don't make games unless there's kind of a really strong thematic element that we just like feel we have to make it about. So like a vampire game sat on the back burner for a long time, but since we were kids, we loved vampires.
Yeah, that's true. I like to tell this anecdote, but my grandmother, she was very concerned about me when I was little, because she thought something's not okay with me since I'm obsessed so much about vampires. And yes, it kind of went into adulthood for sure. We wanted to do this. Emotional connection is the most important part, though. So, like Laura said, it when we connected, particularly alcoholism was the narrative theme that was important for us to approach. And when we realized that there is a good confluence there with that, we thought, okay, it's time.
Yeah, so theme came first, but love of vampires always there.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. With Liza being a young vampire living amongst unsuspecting townsfolk, if you were both vampires yourselves, how would you go under the radar? What are some tips and tricks being fans of vampires?
It wouldn't be hard, really.
Mostly because we are quite homebodies. Like Darkness, we're very, very nocturnal, so we kind of have like our schedules already aligned in that way.
Nice.
So for me, I think that would also be a pretty good start already.
Yeah, we mostly just work. That's kind of
fair.
our general schedule, and I don't think we would have much challenge except for, I guess, the hunts.
Yeah, the hunts would be. Yeah, he's a vegetarian, so that would be challenging.
So only the animal blood, I guess.
I mean, he wouldn't even be cool with the animal blood. That's a whole thing, is that we have a ton of people who are just like commenting, like, I would much rather drink a human.
Because we have
fair.
With the bunnies, you can feed on bunnies in the game to kind of sustain you for a little bit, but we don't. It's not necessarily a good decision. It's
up to the player how they navigate that. Yeah,
I'm kind of with you. I think I'd be okay with flying under the radar as a vampire. I already don't look in the mirror anyway, right. So I don't have to worry about the reflection. So yeah, I think it'd be okay. How do you go about tackling like choices in this narrative RPG that you're building? Is it difficult to balance with like benefits and disadvantages with each choice the player makes? Like how far in advance do you plan out for every possible like branching path?
Okay, so the first thing to acknowledge here is that people have very different opinions about meaningful choices, quote unquote, and what is considered to be meaningful. Different players have different expectations. So my personal approach here is that, in life, you walk around and you make decisions, arguably every day and maybe every second in the way of your life, you're making decisions. And a lot of them are meaningful, even if you're not changing location after this, even if you don't have a different ending out of this, right? Like if you choose one, element of your life and somebody is upset or somebody is happy because of that, even temporarily, even if you're meeting a stranger and having a short conversation with them, it still has impact on your lives. So we are not quantifying those decisions based on like, this is going to be a completely different engine or something like this, or like the location of the game is going to be in Australia now or something, right? That's not how you quantify things that have meaning. And that's just us. Other people may disagree. But that said, this was an important element. We did have a lot of thought in things that have consequence and things that have meaning to us.
Yeah, and there's a surprisingly large number of pairings of, not pairings even, just how different endings for different characters can all come about. Just there's so many different options in terms of like different character endings. So and there are different main endings as well. So we're not saying that your decisions don't influence the ending. They absolutely can, and they absolutely will. Just for us and how we tend to envision games, again, we go back to like emotion and how does this decision impact your relationship with this character? And how will they go forward because of how you interacted with them? Those are the things that are more interesting and important to us, really.
Yeah, I like to reference this kind of Walking Dead mechanic, where at a certain point we introduced this thing where in the end of the episode, because, a lot of people, again, like would argue about meaningful choices and what is actually a meaningful choice, what consequences are there. And I'm not going to go into length about this, but each episode at some point ended on characters and how you made them feel. So, your choices of this made this person feel devastated. This person was happy that you said this, stuff like that. And for me, this was pretty impactful. I was thinking, okay, well, surely people are probably not going to say all of these are different endings, but to me, this has consequences, has impact. And I feel like we're pretty subtle, I'd say, in the way of our storytelling. So we're not like trying to ham on, this changed this person's life or something, right? But like sometimes it does, and sometimes it's a little more nuanced, and we're happy with that. We hope people are gonna be as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I love how you're approaching that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at the screenshots with like the choices, each choice like affects your stats, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Well, not each of them, but
Sure,
lots of them. Yeah,
yeah.
Lots of the choices impact your stats, whether what experience points you get, which allows you then to potentially up your skills, because they'll be locked. Some of the options will be locked based upon whether you have art or history and politics or poetry, different skills in addition to kind of your moral points as well. So we have morality points, which we don't like to say good and bad. For lack of a better term, we call them humanity points and nihilism points. So kind of like the idea of chaos versus kind of the more like structured, generally
more
accepted, more generally humanly accepted responses. And for us, it's not a sliding scale. It's not left to right. They both go up. You just gain them throughout the game. And those will have potentially an impact on how your story plays out at the end as well. So we're working with a couple different kind of dynamic scales and point systems going on.
And it's kind of an important moment philosophically for us that those stats that you're upgrading, they are grounded in reality. They're grounded in like human characteristics and knowledge. And this is, we just wanted to show how the base of this is human emotion. The base of this is what you experience, what the player experiences, what the character experiences. And then we transfer this to the vampire level. So it's about what you want to learn as a person, and then how it affects you as a supernatural being. So like the Maslow pyramid starts there.
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned a lot of RPG mechanics, and I'm all about the RPGs. One thing that RPGs often have are the combat-oriented focus, but this is pretty much all narration. Why is it so important for you guys as a development team and like party of introverts to kind of focus so much on this type of storytelling?
Yeah, so we'll start, perhaps you can call it selfishly. Those are the games we like to play. We know obviously there's amazing combat games out there, and there's a time and a place for that. But personally for us, we actually have been known to just put down a game because we wanted the story, and the combat was actually felt like it was taking away from the journey and the story that we were going on. So for us, we set out to make a game that we wanted to play. Games that, so you'll see there's actually a lot of weird kind of genres mixed in. There's a little bit of visual novel, a little bit of RPG, a little bit of like adventure game going on. And so kind of the things that we loved, we wanted to bring to the table in that way.
Yeah, it's a bit of a cocktail, but like you noticed, there's no action-based violence in the game. So all the violence that happens there, it happens because of your choices, because of the story, because of narrative, essentially. And action just didn't fit the emotion that we wanted to convey. Liza is not a fighter. She is a doctor. She's a person who struggles with her morality, and that's the important parts in there. There are moments in the game that are more like there are some time-based decisions that she needs to make. There are some actions that you need to make with kind of like more quick time oriented, but that's not to promote any kind of violence. This is only for the sake of the game feeling real and in the moment for the player.
Yeah, you're speaking to somebody who my go-to when games I enjoy are narratives first and foremost. So music to my ears. Like you
There's
mentioned, The Walking
things to
Dead
do
season
though.
1.
You can fly.
Yeah.
You're a bat.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
turn
Oh,
invisible.
absolutely.
There are
Yeah.
there are other mechanics at play. Just specifically, there is violence in the game, but not specifically player.
Induced in action.
Other than feeding, of course, because that's violent.
Yeah, and on to add on that subject of what the player can do rather than can't, it was important for us to give as much freedom as possible in terms of agency. So you have full control of Liza. You can walk around. It's not a typical, it's not a visual novel in the sense that you just kind of click through the text, right? Like in our game, you can actually do a lot of different things directly via your character. Not necessarily the game tells you this is happening and this is happening. So that was important to us.
That's awesome.
Nice, love it.
Yeah. Before we head on out of here, we're going to ask you a question that we ask every single dev that we sit down to interview, and preface this by saying there's no right or wrong answer. Everyone has their own theories on this, which is why we love asking it. But what does being indie mean to you guys?
Yeah. Very ambiguous question. Very much.
I also love how everyone has that similar
yeah. Because I think
what is an indie?
Especially I think for smaller developers, I think just be bluntly honest, sometimes it's not frustrating, but you hear these like tons of resources and everything, and not that they're not indie, but it's just a very different scope that we're all kind of working with. So we'll say what our indie team is. It's small team. There's 2 of us. There's we work with freelancers, but a lot of the stuff is just the 2 of us. Small team, smaller budget, but now in this day and age, honestly, you still need money and you still need to pitch a lot of the time to do a kind of a project of the scale that Cabernet is. And then just kind of the projects come from a place of passion and love, really. I think for me, that's kind of the main thing.
Yes, I agree. But I think it's much easier to define what indie games aren't rather than what they are, right? And if you take us, for example, we do have funding, we do have a publisher, right? So like some people maybe are not even gonna call us indie, right? We feel very indie. I think the defining thing for me is just the ability.
There's a cat in our game, so yeah.
Oh yeah, Vader. Yeah, he's been good most of this interview, but now he's on.
It was a good cameo. But I think the key is that you're able to do a game that you want to do, because many times in our industry, and I hope we get to contribute to that at some point and help people make games that they actually want to make. Like a lot of times it's not possible for a lot of people. For us, kind of stars align, and we're actually making the project that it's our dream game.
Getting regardless. To trust your vision.
Yeah. If you do that, there is a good chance you're indie, essentially, at least in heart.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's a great answer. You nailed it. Yeah. Awesome job.
Hey, thank you. Good questions.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Laura and Arseni, thank you so much for joining us, and once again for allowing us to show off Cabernet. Anyone watching this sort of watch the showcase, want to know where to find any updates on the game, and when can people expect to play it? Just let them know.
Yeah, so there'll be an announcement pretty soon about everything, and right now you can find us on TikTok. That's actually probably our most viewed social platform.
Yes, without a doubt. So yeah, TikTok, Party for Introverts, one word, I believe. We are on Twitter, X, whatever, Pintrovert.
It's Twitter. You got it right the first time.
Yeah. And I guess the key part is Steam. So go to Steam, wish list, play the demo.
Yeah.
We have a pretty active community there too on the Steam community thing. So join, have a chat with people.
Awesome.
So yeah. Nice. We're around. The game is soon. we're
Awesome.
getting to that point. I don't know if we're when is this gonna air versus when the announcement is gonna be. We know the date.
This airs. This will go live
Same
when the
day.
showcase is. So the September 19th is when this is live. Yeah, time
Okay.
wobbly.
Okay.
mess
So
going on.
Vortex.
just follow our socials, Steam, TikTok. There should be some important updates very soon.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Like they mentioned, please go wishlist the game as well as all the other games we showed off. We say it all the time. It means the absolute world and does so much beneficial things for all the devs. So please go do that. Find all the information on Cabernet on our website, sixoneindie.com. For all the games in the showcase, we'll have links to all their socials, the Steam pages, all that jazz. And if you haven't watched the showcase yet, what are you doing? Go watch it. Some amazing games we got to show off. So that's on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/sixoneindie. And stay tuned here for more interviews, more showcases, more fun things all about indie games that we love very, very much. Remember that we love you, stay safe, and play more indies. Bye.
Hey, thank you.